Casey had a billy goat he gave the name of Seamus. And Seamus was, the neighbours said, a national disgrace. And right enough, the animal was notoriously famous for masticating every rag of laundry round the place. From skirts to shirts, insatiably, he proved his powers of chewing. The question of digestion seemed to matter not at all. But you'll agree, I think, with me. His limit of misdoing was reached the day he swallowed Annie Rooney's old red shawl. Oh, Mrs. Annie Rooney was a winsome widow woman, and many a homespun Romeo had sought to change her name, and living just across the way, 'twas surely only human that a lonesome man like Casey would be wishfully the same. So every Sunday, shaved and shined and primed for the occasion, Pat called upon the lady and she said he looked a dote. And sipping tea, it looked like she might yield to Pat's persuasion, but alas, he hadn't reckoned on that devastating goat. For Seamus loved his master with a deep and dumb devotion. And everywhere that Casey went, that goat had want to go. And though I cannot analyse a quadruped's emotion, they said the beast was jealous, and I think that it was so. For every time that Casey went to call on Annie Rooney, beside the gate the goat would wait with woefulness intense, until one day the wooing pair, now fast becoming spoony, our Seamus spied an old red shawl a flutter on the fence. How Annie Rooney loved that shawl, beyond all rhyme or reason. Well, maybe 'twas an heirloom or a cherished souvenir, for judging by the way she wore it, even out of season, it must have been as precious as a sari of cashmere. Seamus strolled towards it. No doubt the colour pleased him. First he biffed it, then he sniffed it, just as any goat to do. Then his melancholy vanished as unholy hunger seized him, and he wagged his tail with rapture as he nuzzled in to chew. "You got a other daisy," said the hearty Mr. Casey to the blushing widow Rooney, and they parting at the door. "With your tenderness and tears, and sure you set me heart a-blazing. I would die if I could never see me Annie any more." "Gone now with your blarney," said the widow, softly sighing, and she went to pull his whiskers, when dismay her bosom smote. The old red shawl was missing, where she'd left it safely drying. Then she saw it disappearing down the neck of Casey's goat. Fiercely flamed the widow's temper. "Look," said she, "the thieving devil! He has made my shawl a supper. Well, I hope it's to his taste. Excuse me, Mr. Casey, if I seem to be uncivil, but I'll never wed a man with such a misbegotten beast." She slammed the door. She left him in a state of consternation, and he couldn't understand it till he seen the grinning goat. Then with eloquence she cursed him. He cursed it, and eloquence, he cursed it. And his final fulmination was a poem of pure profanity impossible to quote. So blasting goats and petticoats, and feeling downright sinful, despairfully he wandered into Finnegan's shebeen, and straight away proceeded to absorb a mighty skinful of the deadliest variety of Finnegan's patchouli. When he started homeward, it was in the early morning, Seamus following faithfully a yard behind his back. But Casey slipped and stumbled, and without the slightest warning, like a lump of lead, he tumbled right across the railway track. There he lay, serenely. It'd take a truck to budge him, dozing and reposing with his head upon the rail. Did Seamus nudge him? Yes! To no avail. Oh, that goat is troubled, and his efforts are redoubled. He tugs at Casey's whiskers, he nibbles at his ear, he shakes him with his shoulder, and with fear becoming bolder, he bellows like a fog horn. But the sleeper does not hear. Seamus scampers up the line, desperate for assistance. Then anxiously he gallops back and tries with might and main to pull his master off the track. When Janie, in the distance, he hears the roar and rumble of a fast approaching train. Does Seamus faint and falter? No. He stands there stark and splendid. True, his tummy is distended, but he gives his horns a toss. By these horns, his goatish honour will be gallantly defended, and if their valour fail him, he will perish with his boss. His head he braces bravely, and ever clearer, clearer, he hears the throbbing thunder of the early morning mail. He'll face the mighty monster. It is coming nearer, nearer. He'll fight it and he'll smite it and he'll never turn the tail. Can you see our hairy hero standing there in tragic glory? Can you hear the engine driver shrieking, "Horror!" to the sky? No, you can't, because my story has no end so grim and gory, for Seamus did not perish and Pat Casey did not die. At this very present moment, Casey swaggers hale and hearty, and Seamus strolls beside him with a bright bell at his throat, while the recent Mrs. Rooney is the gayest of the party, for now she's Mrs. Casey and she's crazy for the goat. You're wondering what happened? Well, you know the truth is stranger than the wildest branch of fiction, so I'll tell you without shame. There was Seamus and his master in the face of woeful danger, with that giant locomotive rushing down in smoke and flame. What power on earth could save them? Yet a golden inspiration to poets and goats alike may come. So in that brutish brain a thought was born. The owl red shawl, then rearing with elation like lightning, Seamus threw it up. Red flag. It stopped the train. Masterpiece.